Sharyl Attkisson is investigative reporter. She's the host of Full Measure with Sharyl Attkisson, and she joins us now. Welcome to the program, Sharyl.
Why, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So everybody said, well, not everybody, the press made you look like a loon and a crazy person when you were reporting the facts on Benghazi. And then I'll never forget the video that you took. Maybe you were in a hotel room or something. I can't remember exactly, but I remember you having on your phone tape of someone turning on your computer and I think deleting things from your computer. Was that what was happening?
Well, that was way after the initial forensics and discovery of the government intrusion on a third computer. Yes, while I was working, there was a remote access and hyper quick deletion before my very eyes of something that is not possible to do by holding down a key yourself or anything like that. And yes, Media Matters launched an effort to talk to a supposed forensics expert who'd never looked at any of these computers, who declared I was holding down my backspace key or that it was stuck, and therefore none of the computer intrusion story was true, and it was all just, sort of made up craziness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it took hold as much as they hoped. I mean, that was widely reported in the liberal press, but I do think most people understood we have and had the forensics that proved the government intrusion from the start. And now, as you said, we have a former federal agent involved in the surveillance who has admitted being part of it and helped us with some information.
Okay, so tell me how that came about. How did you get this? How did this guy flip or this woman flip? And why?
The lawsuit that I fought for about 6 years at great expense, with the government fighting every step of the way, so I never got a page of discovery, was ultimately dismissed last year, with the main judge, although there was a great dissenting judge who disagreed, but the main judge saying I should have the names of the agents, not just the forensic proof showing the government did it. I needed to know the names of the people who were involved. And we argued we can't do that unless we get discovery. So it was this horrible loop.
Right.
But we put out sort of an all call for information because we were at a dead end, if that's what was required. And we were contacted by a number of people that have been vetted, not by me. So I have limited information, but my attorneys have been researching and vetting people for 4 to 5 months. And as for motivation, I don't know, except it could be, these are shady characters involved in doing this. You can imagine the federal agents would be willing to do illegal surveillance on lots of Americans, according to this information, not just me. That's all along why this was important. It wasn't because of me. But one of the people we name in the lawsuit is a former Secret Service agent who's in prison for other government corruption already. So these are the kinds of people you're dealing with that you have to sort through the truth and sort through their information. And my vetters think that they have very good information now. Will it be enough to convince the judge to let us open this case with the names? I don't know.
So, Sharyl, it would be kind of comforting to know that these were all rogue agents. But do you believe that is true? Is that what the evidence is showing you, that these might be all rogue agents, or was there coordination?
There was, according to our information, coordination out of a sort of a task force, you could call it, run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Baltimore at the time under then U.S. Attorney Rod Rosenstein, with a task force of people that included FBI, Secret Service, contractors that were tasked sometimes to ATF, DEA, Secret Service, and FBI. This is a group that, and I believe this is just my theory based on information I have from people who work on the inside, there are numerous dark groups that do work like this, totally outside the FISA process. I mean, people have asked whether FISA warrants should be approved, but we knew all along there was no FISA warrant on me. I had sources that told me that. So we knew all along that the spying on me was done outside the system entirely, sort of this extra legal system that happens, yes, I believe, with the knowledge of important people inside the Department of Justice. Therefore, Glenn, we're at this loggerheads where no matter what we know, even if the guys bring themselves in handcuffs to me or to the government or to the courts, if Department of Justice doesn't want to hear it, doesn't want to prosecute themselves, it still goes nowhere. unless there's, I guess, somehow enough public pressure for people to say do something.
So the Justice Department, I mean, we've lost justice and intelligence in this country in more ways than one. But those two departments, I think, are really, really screwed up. They were turning a blind eye at best. But I think the corruption starts at the very, very top. Is there any indication to you that any of this stuff, because I mean, Trump is paying the price for this kind of corruption himself right now? Is there any clue that this stuff is going to be cleaned up? Is there anybody that is going to ride into the rescue here?
So far, sadly, no. I mean, nothing has changed for us in fighting our lawsuit at Department of Justice between the Obama administration and the Trump administration. The same people are still fighting it. They don't seem to care about the forensics, which, again, these are undeniable forensics. It's not something you can dispute as to whether the government software and the government's IP addresses were involved. They're still fighting it instead of doing the obvious, which they should say, boy, this is serious. We need to get to the bottom of who may have done this. They're in essence, covering up and obstructing. And I don't know what to do about that except to say that, in my view, there are still people in important places that don't want things like this to come to light. And I think that's in part because, as I said, this is way bigger than just the surveillance on me. Who cares about that other than me? But this was done, we believe, and our information says, on hundreds of innocent U.S. citizens and other journalists. I just happen to have the intel contacts to get the forensics exam and prove it.
So tell me exactly what they were doing to you and what you think they might be doing to others.
They were, around March of 2011, surveilling me, ATF agents who were involved in exposing the illegal Fast and Furious operation that the government had denied at first, moving weapons into a sovereign nation of Mexico into the hands of Mexican drug cartels. And they were ineffectively monitoring everything I did on my computer through government software, proprietary only to the U.S. government intel agencies that we see in our computer, in my computers, while I was at CBS. So they could monitor all my keystrokes. They got into the CBS program. CBS announced this, by the way. There's not any disputing this, that, the programs their computers were infiltrated, not just my forensics, but we hired a separate forensics team at CBS that confirmed the intrusions. And they were able to use Skype. I don't use Skype anymore because I didn't know at the time. It can be activated silently by government or government software. They can listen in on what your conversations are without you knowing it, and they can exfiltrate files through Skype, which they did. They had
which means they can go in. Which means they can go in and take files that you have on your computer that are not related to Skype and take them without you knowing.
Yes, right. They could remotely operate my computer at any given time. They can set up an operation where they can access it as if they were sitting at your computer. I mean, all kinds of things. Basically wanting to know, I assume, what I was working on, what I was about to report, and most importantly, what Obama officials or administration folks were talking to me and giving me the information that I was using to break stories with.